Hello everybody, and welcome to the Arcana Novum mod spotlight for version 1.4.2. This is a mod that I have made, and so I want to show off all the main features and all of the items that you can make in this new mod. I'm going to do a basic tutorial of all the mechanics and what you can do, and we'll get started. First thing you want to do is you're going to want to make yourself the Tome of Arcana Novum. This is kind of your guidebook and has all the features and explains everything that you can do and want to do with the mod. It's pretty simple to make. All you need is an enchanting table and an Eye of Ender. And then what you do is you just craft them together. It's a shapeless recipe, and it'll say that you can make this mysterious tome in your menu. But once you put it into your inventory, it will turn itself into the Tome of Arcana Novum. All you're going to want to do to use it is just right-click. It opens up this menu here. There's a lot of things that you can see already, but it's not that complicated, trust me. First thing up here is your little head. You can click this and it'll give you kind of a book-style tutorial where it explains everything that I'm going to explain in this tutorial here, but you can look through and get a basic idea of what's going on. The first bar you see here is your level. This is your XP for the mod, which you get by crafting and using magic items, as it says right there. And you will be able to see your progress for each level fill up with these little bottles here. The next one is your skill points, which you can use to acquire upgrades and augments for your items. You start off with 3. You get 3 per level of XP that you earn. Plus, you can get them from doing achievements with certain items, which we'll cover later. Lastly, this is one of the more important ones, is your concentration. This determines how many items you can be using at a single time. Right now it says that the only item taking concentration is the Tome, and it's taking 0, and we'll get more into what that means later. You can also have a bar here that will fill up. If you want to see all the items that you can make, you can click this book here at the bottom. This is kind of the main menu that you're going to be spending most of your time in, and it shows all of the possible items that you can make. You have these arrows down here to go back and forth between the pages because there's more than just fits on a single page. If you want to just look at certain types of items, you have a filter up here, and there's certain categories you can filter them by just by clicking through. So now it's just showing all of the items that have the mundane classification. You can go through, and there's a bunch of different things you can sort by. Armor, equipment, charms, which we'll get into, catalysts and all that. You can also change the sort if you want to. This recommended sort here is kind of what I recommend you go through in terms of making the items, kind of the simpler ones all the way up to the more complicated ones later on. You can also sort by their rarity, ascending or descending, alphabetical, and all that. And then this last button here, the Tinker, we will get to later. So on the first page here, when you see, one of the first items that you can make is called the Temporal Moment. And these are the mundane classification of items. Now what mundane means is that they don't really do that much. You can see when our tome here, if you look at the bottom, it is a mundane item, which means that it takes 0 concentration. You can have as many of these in your inventory as you want, and it will not have any negative effect. They don't do much, but they're pretty easy to make. And these are usually used as crafting ingredients. So if we look in the chest here, it doesn't do much. We'll see what we can use it for later on. For example, I'll get into crafting in a moment. Next up is the Runic Matrix, another mundane item that doesn't do much aside from just a crafting item. You don't do too much with it. And then last mundane item is Exotic Matter. This one's a bit more useful than other items. It's not only a crafting item, but it also acts as a fuel source for the Continuum Anchor, which is one of the last items that we'll cover. So I'll put these back and we'll be coming back to those. Next up is some catalysts here, which you can see there's a mundane catalyst, an empowered catalyst, an exotic one, and a legendary one. And these are the 4 main rarities of items. I guess I already mentioned the mundane items, they don't do that much. The empowered ones, these are kind of your basic level items. They take 1 concentration each. And we'll see what happens when you pass your limit. When you start off, you have 5 concentration, and this will go up as you increase your level. And we'll see what happens when you surpass your concentration by having more items than you can take. Next up is the exotic augment catalyst. Exotic items take 5 concentration each. And last up is legendary. These take 20 concentration each. And so what these catalysts do is that you can use them to apply upgrades and augments to your items. And we'll show off a couple of those in just a moment. And to going on about the concentration that I've mentioned, here I have a shulker box with an item in it, an item, and another item with some augments on it. And so, this is a legendary item, so if I put it, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this gives 20 concentration right now, so I put it in my inventory, it's going to deal damage. So if you go into your tome right now, you will see that you are way over concentration. You're at 20 out of 5, everything is burning, you don't want to be holding that for too long, it is beyond your capacity. But, if I give myself some XP, I set myself to level 10, you'll see now that I have 31 concentration available at level 10. And so what I can do is now I can hold this just fine, and it's not going to do damage to me. I'm going to eat up so I regenerate. And if we check my concentration, completely within acceptable limits. Now, if items are in your inventory, they will give your max concentration per item. 20 for legendary, 5 for exotic, 1 for empowered, and 0 for mundane. If you put them in your ender chest, they will still take concentration, but at half the rate. And I'll see in your breakdown here that it's now taking 10 concentration, and it says that's because you're in your ender chest. Same thing goes for shulker boxes. I have the same item here in a shulker box in my inventory, and that also takes 10. This can stack, so if I put the shulker box with the item in my ender chest, it will only take 5, as you can see there. So, something to keep in mind that if your items are, easily accessible, they still take concentration. So if you put the items away in a chest, obviously, there's no concentration being taken now. Next thing is augments. Now we see here there are 3 augments on this with different levels. You have Pyroblast 4, Cremation 1, and Charm of Wildfire 5. I don't have these augments unlocked right now because I just had a fresh account made. And so, any augments that are on an item that you're holding that you do not have unlocked will incur an additional penalty. So we have 4 plus 1 plus 5 levels, means that this will be taking 30 concentration total. And we'll go into a bit more about how these augments work in a moment. Now we're going to go on to the first of the many items that are offered. If you want, this is going to be a long tutorial, so if you just are here to learn about how a specific item works, feel free to use the chapters in the YouTube bar. I think I'll have those set up so you can skip around easily to find what you're looking for in this long tutorial. So the Charm of Magnetism, I'm going to pick this up here, and we'll show how to craft one in just a moment. All it does is you right-click, and items will come to you. They can be all over the place, and it has a pretty decent range, and it will attract the items that are within kind of the area of which you clicked. You can also sneak right-click, and you'll see that the charm's pull strengthens, and now items will just passively be drawn to you. So they're all getting sucked up right to me. And it's pretty handy, but it's also one of the cheaper items here. So I'm going to grab all of this materials. And before I'm actually going to craft this, there's an opportunity to show off one of the achievements that you can earn with these. And so when you are in this page here, you can right-click to see the recipe, and we use a custom crafting mechanic here. They use a 5x5 grid. And you can see that there is a lot of iron needed for this. You can also mouse over the little paper here, and it'll give you a complete breakdown of how many stacks of everything that you need. But if you left-click on the item when you're in this menu, it'll take you to the item page. So on the bottom here are the achievements. So this one asks you to pull, or it's supposed to say pull, at least 25 different items with the Charm of Magnetism's active ability. That's the right click. And so, if I throw all of these lovely items on the ground here, if I disable the passive first, I throw all these lovely items on the ground here, and then right click. Oh, is that not 25? May have not had enough. I did not have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Alright, 22, 23, 24, 25, and some extras for good measure. There we go. And now I'll say in the chat, you've gained the achievement. And now if we go into that menu again, we'll see down here that it says achieved, and you get a nice little XP bonus and some skill points depending on how hard the achievement is. And what you can use these as skill points for is unlocking augments, which are up here. And these will tell you exactly what they do. So you can put extra range onto your magnets for the right click ability, or for the passive ability. Then there are some more rare augments that you can put on that'll grant new abilities. Like this one will pull iron armor and tools off of mobs and disable shields. So this might be useful in PvP, or if you're trying to disarm some mobs and get some armor off of them. And so how you use your skill points here is you just click on this little icon right here. You'll see that there are 3 little dots. It says there are 3 levels available, and these little dots indicate kind of the rarity of the augment, and they match the 4 or 5 rarity colors of the things that you can unlock. And so gray is mundane, green is empowered, blue is exotic, orange or gold is legendary, and then purple is mythical, the last rarity that we'll get to in a little bit. And that these take 1 point for mundane, 2 points for empowered, 3, 4, 5 for the extra tiers. We'll say right here that mundane costs 1 skill point to unlock, and you can click it, and now your current level is 1 and your next level is 2. And what you can, how you would apply these, because not only do you have to unlock them, you also have to apply them to the specific item that you want. So we're going to go back to these catalysts here, and this is why there are the 4 tiers of catalysts. And if you go into your menu and click the Tinker icon, you can now put your item into here, and it will say, oh, you can apply an augment now. We'll say that we did not unlock these other augments, so we cannot apply them. So now if we click this, it's going to take that mundane catalyst out of our inventory and put it onto the item, and now it says right there. This menu also lets you rename your magic items, so if you're like, ooh, I want to rename it to something funny, like magnet, it'll now get renamed as well. So now this has the extra range on it. Alright, and the crafting for this is pretty simple. I said we right-click the item that we want to craft, and it'll show you the recipe. And if you're going from this menu, when you click Forge Item, it's going to draw all of the things that you need. It actually looks like I did not have enough items. What was I missing? Oh, iron ingots. Right. I'm gonna get the last of that. And then we go back, and it'll automatically put in all the items that we need. And now all you do is you click the item to forge it, and now you've created your first item. And you'll notice here at the bottom of the item, it'll say crafted by whoever made it. And if is an item that was spawned in by an admin, it will say synthesized instead of crafted by. So you can kind of differentiate which items were made by a survival player versus a admin on a server. And that is the first item that you can make. It's one of the cheaper ones, so it's a good one to start off with and get some XP and get used to everything and all the functions. Next up, we have the Charm of Light. And so this is a nice little item that will place lights automatically around you. And see, you hold it, and it just placed a light right there. You can walk into darkness, and it'll place another light. And what you can do is you can toggle this on and off, but you can also toggle on and off seeing the lights, because it places them automatically, so there's a chance it places one where you don't want it to be. And you need to know where it is so you can remove it. So if you sneak right click, it will change the mode between turning the light placement on and off or seeing the lights. And once you're in the mode you want, you just right click without sneaking, and now it will highlight these little lights here. And if you want to get rid of them, just place a block there, and it will get rid of them. And if you want to stop it from placing lights altogether, you go to the light placement mode, right click, we'll say it dims, and now if we go off into the darkness, it won't be placing any lights. This charm does have some additional options for augmentation. So if we take a peek at that, you can make it so it changes how bright the lights are. Right now the lights are always the max strength of 15. You can make it so you can have a right-click ability that'll light up a huge area around you, which is really good for spawn-proofing or lighting up a huge cave. You can unlock a mode that lets you decide where the lights go, so you can place them manually just by right-clicking. And the last one is the threshold for light placement, because right now it only places them once you're in like a significantly dark area, and it won't place any of them if you're in an area that's well lit. So you can change exactly what that threshold is. So we can change it back to day. The next up is the Charm of Feasting. Oh, there's a zombie. The Charm of Feasting will automatically feed you from food in your inventory. And it has a couple of modes that you can have it in. So by default, it will only feed you if you are down the full hunger that the item is going to feed you with. So baked potato gives you 2.5. So it's going to wait for you to lose 2.5 hunger bars before it tries feeding you. And if the item that it is trying to feed you is the cooked pork chop, it'll wait until you're down 4. And how it decides is inventory order. So, the highest priority slots are your hotbar, going from left to right, and then it goes through your inventory. So you can make sure that it's only feeding you the food that you want it by just repositioning the items in your inventory. So we're going to take some hunger here. And we're going to wait for it to feed me in a couple seconds, and there I'll feed you the steak. You can change it between modes. So the next mode is the regeneration mode, where it'll feed you if you are no longer in the regeneration, if you no longer have enough food to passively regenerate, which is if you're missing a single meat stick. Next one is optimal plus emergency, which is the first mode, plus now there's a new emergency feature that will automatically feed you if you drop below half health and you can eat a food. It will feed you that food so you can regenerate some health quickly. And then the last one is regen plus emergency, which will pretty much keep you as fed as possible at all times. So I'm going to keep that in my inventory because it is very handy to have. And it was pulling from the steak that I already had on me. The next up is a very helpful one for getting some of the ingredients for later items, is the Ancient Dowsing Rod. This is a tool that helps you find netherite. So I have a little setup over here that we can go show this off. So you're going to want to have particles on for most of these items, because particles are one of the ways that you can get the visuals of what's happening. So when you right click with the Ancient Dowsing Rod anywhere, it's going to ring a bell, and you're going to wait for the sound to reverberate a little bit, and then it's going to highlight all the nearby ancient debris. As you saw right there, it pointed to the nearest piece, and it makes all the nearby pieces glow a little bit. You also saw some additional lava drip particles on the ground, and that's kind of like a survey of how much debris is in the wide area. And so it had the arrow pointed directly up, and so this goes through blocks, so you can just look where it is, and it's kind of like a little x-ray cheat for getting debris. We also saw that we got an achievement for revealing at least 10 debris with a single use. And so this is very helpful when you are mining for netherite and you maybe just blast mined out everything. You want to go see if there's anything that you missed, like in the walls. And it does have a pretty long cooldown. It has a cooldown of about 30 seconds. And then if you try and use it again, it'll say it's recharging. And if you're not in range, you'll hear that fire extinguish sound. So that debris over there was not in range. And so I'm going to wait for this to recharge before I go to the nether and show that off. Alright, so now it's recharged. We're going to go to the nether. So here's a little blast mine area. And so maybe you got all the debris that, is revealed by the explosions, but you want to find out if you missed anything in these little walls. So you're going to right click. You're going to give it a second to find all the debris. Oh, there's some right up in here. So we follow the arrow. We just poke around a little bit. Oh, and now we're starting to see some fire particles through the wall, so we know we're getting close. And here it is. Now we can mine this ancient debris. And there's actually a decent amount back here. So it's very handy for getting some extra debris. Although, the recipe for it does require a lot of debris in the first place. Show off right here that it needs about 48 debris, be spread between the debris, the scrap, and the actual netherite ingots to craft this. But I think it's a worthwhile investment and makes mining a lot helpful. And you can get augments for this that will increase the range, decrease the cooldown, and a bunch of other good stuff like that. Next up, we have the Telescoping Beacon. This is a very handy one for dropping down beacons and picking them back up. So what this does is it stores a beacon and the pyramid inside of it. Now if we go over here and we want to plop this down, we drop it, and it'll just deploy a full beacon like that, ready to go. Now you can put in your desired effect and boot it up, and it's good to go. And it comes pre-made with an iron beacon, because that's part of the recipe, is enough iron blocks for a full iron beacon. But you can also swap them out if you want to show off your wealth a little bit. You can throw in some blocks of emerald, and now when you pick this back up, just by right-clicking again, and then you place it back down, the emerald blocks will be with it. The order does not get preserved, just the total block type of block count of each type. And also you do have to reapply the effect each time you move it, although there is an augment that will keep the effect that you have selected between placements. It will also work on any tier, so if we remove that and now it's only a 3 tall pyramid, it'll suck up all the blocks and leave the extra behind. And now you can place down a tier 3, or you can go back and place it again, and if you put another block back, now it'll take the full base. So very helpful for not having to mine an entire beacon base if you just need to drop it down real quick for a boss fight, if you need the strength regeneration, or haste 2 if you're mining something out. Next up is the Soulstone. Now the Soulstone is an item that stores mob souls in it when you kill them. So you start off by crafting an unattuned one, and you have to attune it to a mob, and then the mobs that you kill will be stored inside. So how you attune it to a mob is you simply take the Soulstone, you find a mob that you want it to store the type of, you punch it, and now it's attuned to cow souls. You'll see there, that's cow souls. And now anytime that you kill a mob, It doesn't even have to be in your hand or in your offhand or anything. It just has to be in your inventory. Now it says 1 mob's killed. And there are different tiers of this. So, kill a bunch of mobs and it'll go up. The first tier is 25 and then 100, and then it keeps going all the way up to the final tier, which is 7 at 10,000 mobs. And so the tiers will have different uses based on what you use the Soulstone for. Soulstone itself doesn't really serve a purpose, but it is used in a bunch of other items that you can use based on how many souls you have inside. So right here we have a blaze one that has 69 blaze souls in it. And now if we kill this one, it'll go up to 70. And now what you can use the Soulstone for is an essence egg. This is kind of a mob spawn egg here. And so when you craft it, the crafting recipe takes a Soulstone. So here we have a Soulstone with salmon in it, 142. And I'll show that one off in a second. So when you go to craft a essence egg, you'll see that the center requires a Soulstone with at least 25 mobs in it. And now what this means is that for every 25 mobs in the Soulstone you use to craft, you will get 1 use in the essence egg. So the essence egg isn't, infinite. It depends on how many souls you have in the Soulstone that you use to craft. So we have 142 mobs in this one. So when we craft it, it's going to take out a multiple of 25, the highest multiple. So that just happens to be 5, and it will leave behind the extra. And you get the Soulstone back, so you can refill it and make a new essence egg of that type after you use it. So now you can go around and spawn mobs, just like a mob egg would. And then once you use it up, it disappears. So there's no way of refilling the essence egg. And once it's gone, you have to make a new one from the Soulstone that you used in the first place. It does, however, have a secondary purpose, and that is to reconfigure spawners. So over here we have a run-of-the-mill zombie spawner in there. He's just a little guy spinning around. And if we go inside, and if you have at least 5 uses in the essence egg, you can spend those 5 uses to change the spawner type. So that used all 5, and now it is a blaze spawner. If we step out, we can wait for blazes to spawn. And now, there we go, some blazes spawned, the type has been changed. And so that is the uses of the essence egg. The last empowered item we're going to cover is the Fractal Sponge. This is pretty much just a better sponge, an infinite sponge, you might say. So this works on water as well as lava, and it just sucks up a bunch of fluid, way better than a normal sponge. So if we just place it here, it sucked up the entire lava pool right here. And it will become wet, and all I have to do is break it, and you get it back, and it's fully dry again. You can use it again. This isn't, it doesn't have an infinite range or infinite number of blocks. It does have a limit still, but all you have to do is pick it back up, it becomes dry, and you can use it again. So if we go into this little underwater cavern here, turn on my full bright, go into this underwater cavern, you can see that there is a lot of water here. And if we place it down, it'll drain out a good size of it. And we can actually drain out this entire cavern with just a couple uses of the sponge. And now the entire cavern is going to be empty. And so there are a couple caveats with any magic items that have a block form. And the first is that they cannot be moved by pistons. So here we have a slime block, and so this should pull back a normal block, but it doesn't work on the sponge, and you cannot push these around. And that is just to ensure that it retains its properties as a magical item. And so that is it for the empowered items so far. And next up we're going to go to the Charm of Felidae. This is a very useful charm that gives you cat-like properties. The first one is that you take half fall damage. So that was a fall that should have killed me. That was like at least 20 blocks in the air. But it halved it. So all fall damage is halved, and you get an achievement for if it saves you from what would be a lethal fall. And the second one is that creepers and phantoms are terrified of you. So if I have this creeper here, he is running away. He does not want anything to do with me. So we can chase him down, and he's like, nope, get away from me. And I'm glad that he will still explode if he gets angered, but he will do his best to get away from you. And the second part is phantoms, and I'm glad that the creeper let us into the range here because we're going to get some phantoms going. So there are some phantoms up there, and they are going to swoop at us, and then the charm is going to hiss at them, and they are going to scatter right up into the air. They are not coming down. They are terrified of us. So it's a very useful charm. And this will still cause phantoms to spawn if you haven't slept, but there is an augment for it that will completely disable phantom spawning in its entirety. You can also increase the fall damage reduction, so you take no fall damage from the charm as well. So next up is the Spawner Harness. This is a very useful item for relocating spawners. So instead of having to go find a spawner that you can change the type of with the Essence Egg, and then setting up around wherever the spawner you found was, whether it be the Magma Cube spawner in a bastion, or just one of the dungeons underground, or a cave spider spawner, you can take them. All you have to do is go up, right click the spawner with the harness, and it captures it. And now it will say that you have a blaze spawner with you, and you can just take this home with you. You can place it wherever the heck you want. The caveat is that it has a chance of breaking after each time you use it. If we place it back, and if we use this, oh my. If we use this a couple times, we will eventually get unlucky, and the harness will shatter. There are a couple augments that you can put onto the spawner, though, that will help you with that issue. And if you can get some of the netherite scrap that you used to craft it back, and you can also decrease the chance of it breaking. And so, as you can see, it does take a bit of netherite to make, so you can reclaim up to all of the netherite with the max level of that augment, or you can make it so it doesn't break at all. And that is very handy for kind of giving you mobility with spawners, which usually you can't move at all. Next up is the Stasis Pearl. And this one is pretty much an ender pearl that you can freeze midair. So you can throw it, and then you can right click while it's in flight, and it'll turn into that little glittery ball right there, and it's not moving. And the eye will become activated, as you can see. And then you can right click it again and freeze it again as many times as you want while it's in flight, and then once it hits, you teleport just like a normal ender pearl. And it also acts as an infinite ender pearl, but it has a bit of a cooldown, so you can see that it has to recharge a little bit. So it's useful for whether you need an infinite ender pearl and you don't have to keep carrying them around and you're fine with the longer cooldown, or if you want to just leave it somewhere and then go off and do your thing and then reactivate it and teleport, kind of like a Stasis Pearl chamber. The Stasis Pearls do have a time limit of how long they can exist in that little suspended state. I think it's about 5 or 10 minutes, so you can't leave it for super long. If you want kind of something that lets you teleport back whenever, you're going to want to get yourself a Pearl of Recall. This is an item that you can set anywhere in the world, and it will act as like a teleport beacon for you. So here I have one set to the Nether. They work across dimensions, and here I have an unbound one. So if I right click, it will save the location data, and when you're holding the the Pearl of Recall, it will highlight where the spot is. And if you take it off, you don't see anything, so it's not always there. And then I'm going to use the nether one. You right click, and you have this recharge time. And after the particles finish, it will teleport you to the saved location. This does get canceled if you take damage, however. So if I'm charging up here and I walk into the fire, the recall is disrupted and it gets canceled. And it goes on 75% cooldown. So you have to wait for it to charge up again. So it's not something that you can use in the middle of a fight. You need to get out and you get hit and then you're not going anywhere. So it's very useful if you are out traveling super far, you need to recall back to your base. And there's once these are set, you cannot change them, although there is an augment that lets you clear the location and reset it. So you might want to apply that augment if you need to make one that you can kind of set and reset as you need and you change the location. But if you have like a permanent spot, then the base level is fine. You can also decrease the cooldown on both of these with augments. Next up, you have the Igneous Collider. Now, if we take a peek at some of the recipes for some of the items here, you're going to need a lot of obsidian, and a lot of crying obsidian. And crying obsidian is not really renewable, although the mod does add a method, which I actually forgot to include in our setup here. But if I give myself, let's see, some obsidian, and then either some redstone dust or some glowstone dust, and find ourselves some water, what the mod will let you do is if you throw, we're going to throw a couple obsidian in there. If you throw obsidian and then 16 redstone, it will make 4 obsidian. So 16 redstone will get you, and 1 obsidian will get you 1 crying redstone. So a stack of redstone will get you 4. Or you can use 4 glowstone dust. So if we throw this in here and that in there, we should get 16 for a total of 20. And throw it into the water, and it will pop out like that. So that is one way of getting you some crying obsidian. Another way is through the Igneous Collider, which is a automated obsidian generator. So if we go over here, oh wait, there was 2 that I needed. Because there are multiple ways that you can get this to work. And so you can use either cauldrons of fluid or actual fluid sources. And so we're going to place this down, and then we're going to take some water and some lava, put the water here and the lava here. The side doesn't matter as long as one side has water, one side has lava. It has to be the horizontal sides, it can't be above or below. And it will consume them and give you an obsidian. And you can also make crying obsidian with this if you place the collider on top of a block of netherite. So if you place it on top of there, and then get ourselves a water bucket, we put the lava in the water, and then give it 15 seconds. Come on. There we go. It will make a crying obsidian. And as you saw, it will, if there's no inventory on top of to deposit, it'll just pop it out. Or if there is, it'll put it into the inventory, which is very handy. There are some augments for this that decreases the time and kind of gives the cauldrons, or the fluid sources, a chance to not be consumed when it makes it. You can also get an augment that lets you use blue ice instead of water, and then it doesn't consume the ice and it's just there. And so that's kind of an automatable way to produce obsidian. The cauldrons are there so you can kind of put like a dripstone above it and some lava, and it will make you obsidian over time. And there's some contraptions you can make to automate that even better. And that can be a reliable source of obsidian for you. Next up, we have the Brain in a Jar. This guy is a little XP bank. So if I give myself... Oh, that should give me XP. Oh, I did not set the command. There we go. So now, if we get some XP here, we right-click the brain in the jar, we can store one level. That took the progress that we had for that level, and we can store a full level now. And this will put the XP in XP form and not level form, so it's kind of the total points. So you can click one at a time, or right-click to deposit all of them. And you can gain one level at a time, or gain all of them. So this is very good for enchanting, where you want to not use more XP than you have to by using higher levels and everything. It also has a feature that will mend your items. So if you activate that feature, and then have items with mending on them, oh, there's no XP in it, yeah. So if it needs XP in it, and it will slowly heal the item, as you can see there, because this pickaxe has mending on it. It also works for armor that you are wearing on you. You can see that is repairing as well. And it will drain the XP in the brain. You can see it's going down. And it obviously doesn't work unless the item has mending on it. And that is the brain in the jar. Very helpful for stopping you from losing XP when you die as well. And it has a base cap of 1 million XP points, which is about level 500, I think. And you can augment it so that it becomes better at repairing, so it uses the XP more efficiently when repairing items. You can also make it so you earn interest on the XP that you have stored over time, so it's kind of a passive XP income. Next up, we have the Shulker Core. This is an item that requires a Soulstone with at least 1,000 Shulkers in it, which we can see here. Soulstone with 1,000 plus Shulker, right here. And what you can do with this is you can change the speed, and then when you right-click, you get Levitation. So it's a good way to, reach on top of a high building if you have to. And then you drop down. And it consumes the souls of Shulkers as you use it. So it says Shulkers left, and you can refill this by punching the ground. And now you can take the Soulstone out of it, and now it doesn't work anymore. You can't use it. And you can go refill the Soulstone by killing the Shulkers, and it'll fuel it back up. And you put it back in, and now you're good to go. Oh, that was not the thing I wanted to do. Should have had my Felidae charm on me, honestly. And another thing the Shulker Core is used for is it is a crafting ingredient for our first legendary item here, the Levitation Harness. So this gives you access to creative flight. And so just like the Shulker Core, it has the Soulstone in it. And I believe the recipe for this needs a Shulker Core with at least 500 souls. So, obviously you're going to use the Shulker Core a little bit while you're still getting the materials to make the Levitation Harness. So it's a bit more forgiving on the amount of souls that you have left. And so it consumes both souls and glowstone. So when you have the harness off, you sneak right click, and you can, go recharge the soulstone, but you also need to refuel the glowstone. So you can use blocks or dust, and it'll fuel it up appropriately. And it will tell you how many minutes of flight you have left. So you can put it on, and now you can fly just like you're in creative mode. And you have these little particles that will trail behind you. There is a caveat to this, and that is, let's see, we need skeleton. We go in here so it doesn't burn. If you get hit, you will lose half of your health bar regardless of what armor you have, and the harness will stall, so you will fall out of the sky, and you cannot use it until it says that it reboots, and then you can use it again. So it's not great for combat scenarios, since it provides no armor value whatsoever, and it also deals half your health bar in damage when it breaks. So It's not great for PvP situations or PvE situations, but it's very useful for building. And if you can not take damage, it is absolutely amazing to have. Next legendary item we have here is the Charm of Cinders. This one is very useful, has a lot of different uses. You can see already that we have fire resistance. So carrying it gives you passive fire resistance. It also acts as an infinite flint and steel, so you can punch the ground here. And it has charges that will recharge over time. Infinite flint and steel that can be used in multiple different ways. So if we can build another portal, we can light a cake on it. You get a little achievement for that. And if we build another portal, we can light it with the charm. It can also auto-smelt items if you sneak right-click. It'll say the heat intensifies, and now any items that you pick up will be automatically smelted. And that consumes some cinders as well. You can just throw this on the ground, and then as you pick it up, it will smelt it for you. And the final ability is a pretty useful one. So if we spawn in some zombies and get them over here, we can send out a cone of flame in front of us, and it will melt the zombies. And if you set a lot of mobs on fire, you get the achievement Pyromaniac. And so these guys not having a great time. So it's a charm with many uses, many functionalities. It's great to have. But it is a legendary, so it does take a significant portion of your available concentration. And so now we are going to go into the range here and show off all of the Runic Arrows and all of the archery related items here. So the first up, I'm going to show off the Runic Quiver, or the Overflowing Quiver first, and I need a normal, oh wait, I have normal bow in here, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to use this normal bow here. And so what the Overflowing Quiver does is you can put arrows into it. So here I have some tipped arrows and normal arrows and spectral arrows, and we can put all these in here. And so, we obviously have no arrows in our inventory, they're all in the quiver here, and we can have this anywhere. And now, if we punch anywhere with the bow, it will switch the arrows that we're going to shoot. So now we're shooting a normal arrow, and shoot that out. Now we can shoot an arrow of strength, shoot that out, you can see the little particle effects. We can shoot a spectral arrow out, and that will do the spectral arrow. So it's a good way to keep your inventory organized with a bunch of different tipped arrows that you have and switch between them. It will also refill the arrows. So every couple of seconds, or not couple, I think it's like 2.5 minutes per arrow, it will pick a random slot in the quiver that has an arrow in it and increase the stack size. So these arrows will slowly regenerate, so you don't have to keep buying or making tipped arrows off of people. And so that is the Overflowing Quiver. And then next up is the Runic Quiver, which we'll get to. The Runic Quiver is an upgraded version of the Overflowing Quiver. It takes it as a crafting component, as you can see here. And this is where the runic matrices that we saw earlier come in handy, because they are a crafting component. Is that you have a Runic Bow, which is a bow with power 7 on it, which is beyond, the normal power 5 that you can get. And it also gives you access to all of these runic arrows, which have lovely and special effects. And so when you're crafting equipment or armor-based items, it's going to require a kind of a center item here of the item that you're making. So for the Runic Bow, it's a normal bow. And so what you can do is that when you're crafting it, you can apply enchantments to the bow that you're going to use when you craft it, and these enchantments will get carried over. So we put flame on this bow, and if I grab an arrow, it's on fire and everything. And so now when we go to craft the Runic Bow, if we do here, it's going to consume the bow. And now, If I grab an arrow, this will also have flame on it. So all the enchantments carry over, except for power, which will automatically get bumped up to level 7. And so if we use this normal bow, which doesn't have flame on it, you can also enchant these after the fact. You can't use it in an enchantment table, but if you have a book and an anvil, you can put that on, and now you can put enchantments on that way. And this works for all like equipment-based items. So you know, the sword, the shield, the boots, which we'll get to in a moment. But the best feature of the Runic Bow is not the power 7. It is that you can shoot runic arrows with these. And I'm going to increase my level for this so I can have all of these in my inventory at once. So the Runic Quiver works just like the Overflowing Quiver, except if we were to take one of these runic arrows and we took the Runic Quiver, we cannot place these inside. It won't let us. And also, if you try and shoot... oh, I don't have the normal bow anymore. So if you shoot a runic arrow with a normal bow, it doesn't do anything. It just becomes a normal arrow. So in order to activate the effects, you do need a runic bow. And so the first arrows we have available to us are the smoke arrows. Alright, so if we put the smoke arrows inside a runic quiver and we move it over, when you shoot these, it'll create a giant smoke cloud. It makes it very hard to see. And if you're inside the smoke... Oh, the smoke stopped. The duration... the size of the smoke cloud is based on how far back you pull the bow. And if you are inside the smoke cloud, it gives you blindness and weakness. So it makes it very hard to do things when you are inside the smoke cloud. And mobs will also have a hard time getting to you, and they'll be applied with a bunch of weakness as well. So next up, we have the Tether Arrows. These arrows are so much fun. So if we put these in and switch to the Tether Arrows, these will let you become Spider-Man. So I'm going to aim for that little ledge over there. We shoot this, and we get sent flying up. You're going to want to make sure you have some feather falling or some or a charm of Felidae to keep you safe, because you will have a bunch of fall damage with this if you're not careful. And so these will pull you up anywhere. And so we can go down, and it will pull us over there. And so there is a bit of a learning curve with getting these to be exactly as precise as you want, because if you drag along the ground, it will decrease your velocity, and the arrows do their best to get you exactly like where you aimed. But if you drag along the ground or you hit something and decrease your velocity beforehand, it won't work. So you do have to kind of like jump right at the right time and maybe jump with the direction of the arrow to help you boost. So there is a bit of a learning curve and a bit of a skill cap for it, but they're a lot of fun once you get used to them. And they can also pull mobs towards you. So let's get some, let's see, we'll do some of that, and then you can pull mobs towards you. I'm trying not to kill the cows, but you can pull them all the way over, and it's a lot of fun. And this will work against players as well. You can pull them over. And then next up, we have the Detonation Arrows. I'm going to make an absolute mess of this lovely range now, because the Detonation Arrows, as you might assume, explode. So I'm actually going to aim for the wall so I don't ruin this whole place. So you shoot this, and it explodes quite violently. Let's see if I can hit that tree over there. I can't tell. Oh, I think I missed and hit the tree below. So these will explode and deal a lot of damage. And one of the augments that you can get for these, wrong one, is you can either make them so that they deal very little damage to creatures, but deal a lot of block damage, so they're great for blast mining. Or you can make them so they deal less terrain damage and more creature damage, so they're more geared towards killing mobs and all that. They do deal reduced damage to players, though, so they're not great for PvP, because if they dealt their full damage, they would be very, very powerful and like one-shot kills. So I'm going to put those away so I don't blow a hole in anything else. Next up we have the Concussion Arrows, so I'm going to get a bunch more zombies. I'm going to put them a bit far out, and now as they're coming for us, they get stunned. Like they're not moving. And they get slow, and they're very unhappy for a short period of time. You also don't want to catch yourself in this, because it's very unpleasant. You get slowness, you get weakness, you get mining fatigue. You're not doing much when this is happening. So now we have this horde of zombies following me. Let's see if there's anything that I can do to help me with that. I'm going to skip forward a little bit and bring out these. These are the Photon Arrows. I'm going to put these in, and we're going to switch over to them. These arrows fly completely straight, and they're not actually arrows like once they leave your bow. They are kind of like a quake gun. They pierce all enemies, and you can see that I got an achievement for killing 10 mobs with them. They pierce all enemies, and they fly completely straight, and they shoot a very pretty little laser beam. So they are a lot of fun and great for dealing with large quantities of mobs or mobs that are very far away. They do have a range of, I believe, 150 blocks. Or I think the range scales based on how far you pull the bow back, so it won't go that far if you just pull it a little bit. You can see that the beam is darker, so it does less damage than if you pull it all the way back. Let's see. If we go back to where we were, we have the Graviton Arrows here. And these are very useful for if you have a bunch of mobs that are spread out, and you want them to be together so you can set up a combo shot. So I'm going to pull all of those mobs in with a couple of these Graviton Arrows, and they get all pulled in, and then we can switch back to the Photon Arrows and shoot all of them while they're clumped up and deal with them quickly. Oh, they're ruining my display. Oh no. Let's take care of these. Alright, so that was the Graviton Arrows. I'm going to skip over to the Expulsion Arrows while we're on the topic of spreading and attracting mobs. So I'm going to get some zombies, and I'm going to go over to the Expulsion Arrows. And what these do is that when you hit the ground, they create this field that will pulse out a couple times, and you can see these zombies are not getting close. They get pushed back. And if you hit a mob with them, the effect will stick to the mob and then drop down if the mob dies. So if I just tap this, oh, that went through him. What the heck? So if I tap him, now it's pulsing off of him, so none of his friends can go get close and help him. And the duration is determined by how long you pull the bow back. So if I just pull it like halfway, it'll pulse out a couple times. If I shoot it just that, it'll only pulse out once. But if I do the full draw, it'll pulse out a bunch of times. So now we can get rid of these guys here. Alright, now we have the Flak Arrows. These ones are a lot of fun and very useful for dealing with airborne enemies. when you shoot these out and they collide against a wall, they will explode. Also, if they hit an enemy, they'll explode. But if you're dealing with flying enemies, so we have a bunch of phantoms up there, and my charm will keep them away. But what these do is when you shoot them, they will proximity detonate on flying mobs. So I don't even have to hit them or hit the ceiling. If the arrow gets close enough to a mob that I can kill it, it will explode and deal quadruple damage to airborne enemies. So these are great for dealing with phantoms. And so they will explode and deal AoE damage. And these do not do a lot of damage to people that are on the ground. So you can see I'm in iron armor and it only does a single heart. You might as well just use the normal arrow and you'll get the power 5 bonus and everything. So situational, but also very useful. Next up, we have the Siphoning Arrows. So my quiver's getting pretty full here. Siphoning Arrows. And with both of the quivers, you can punch to go forward, and then sneak punch to go backwards in like the order that it's cycling. So that's pretty handy. So I'm gonna get some zombies out here, so I get a little low. And so they're gonna hit me, and my charm is not gonna keep me alive. So now when I hit a zombie, it's going to siphon some health from them and heal me. So this is very useful for keeping yourself alive in dire situations. So I'm just gonna freeze those guys. Oh, and freeze myself. Just shoot these guys. So next up, let's see, we did the Expulsion. We have the Blink and the Storm Arrows are the last ones we have. Blink Arrows are pretty straightforward. If we switch over to the Blink Arrows, they just teleport you to where the arrow hits. Pretty simple. If you hit a creature, it teleports you to that creature. Let's see if I can hit that phantom. Nope. I'll hit that phantom. Yeah, so I hit the mob, killed it, and then teleported me all the way up there. And then lastly, we have the Storm Arrows. These ones will strike lightning if it's raining, and then also it has a 10% chance to work if it's not raining. So, you know, I shoot it, didn't work, and then it only works if you full draw an arrow and you see the little critical particles on the arrow, and there it goes. Now it struck lightning. But it has a 100% chance of working if it is raining. And these arrows have some pretty powerful augments that you can put on them. All of these arrows have augments of various sorts that will, you know, increase the effect's strength or duration or something like that. But the Storm Arrows are a bit special in that you can make it so if it does strike the ground, it will create an area of like charged land that will damage creatures that are standing on it. Or you can also go the chain lightning route, and this does not rely on the 10% chance of lightning, but it will chain a shock to enemies equal to the level that you have applied. And so these two are mutually exclusive, as are a couple of other augments, and it will say that's mutually exclusive with another augment. So you can only have one or the other. And then this one will increase the chance of the lightning actually happening if it's not raining. Oh, well that's convenient. So now it should always work, as long as you full draw the bow. So we can deal with that phantom pretty easily. And so those are all of the Runic Arrows and the Runic Quiver and the Runic Bow. So there's a lot of options here for you. Obviously more than you can fit in just a single quiver. And they're great for making sure you have an arrow for every occasion. So I'm just going to put some of this stuff away that I do not need. So we're going to step back out and set the weather to clear. Next up, we have the Shadow Stalker's Glaive. This is a sword that's slightly better than a basic netherite sword in terms of its base damage, but its real fun ability comes from its teleportation. So let me grab, put some mob eggs somewhere. There we go. So here we have a regular zombie. So as we hit it, it's going to store charges based on damage we deal. And if we kill a mob, it will give you 4 charges. And what we can do with these charges is that if you hit an enemy, it doesn't even have to be with a sword, but if you hit an enemy and then right-click with the sword, you will teleport from where you were to directly behind the creature. So I can punch this guy and then run all the way out here. And the time that you have to do this is pretty long. It's pretty generous. And then right-click to teleport back, and we're behind the creature, and now we can kill it. You can also sneak right-click and consume only a single charge rather than the 4 that it takes to do the teleport behind someone. And you can teleport 10 blocks in any direction, through walls, into the ground, and obviously into the ground is not exactly where you want to go, but it allows you to go anywhere you want within 10 blocks. So that's pretty handy. And the glaive will automatically recharge a single charge worth every couple seconds. So you can almost always use the short range teleport if you're not actively killing mobs. But if you need more than one charge to use the right click ability, then you're going to need to kill things, or just deal a sufficiently large amount of damage. So that's very easy for keeping up with enemies that are trying to run away, or just general mobility of going through walls. Next up, we have the Shield of Fortitude. This shield converts blocked damage into absorption hearts for a short duration. So if the zombie comes to hit me, and I block his attacks, it's going to give me some absorption. And this doesn't last forever. It lasts a decently long time, but will slowly trickle off, as we can see as it's happening now. So if he hits me and then hits me again, it's going to take from the absorption hearts first. So very useful, very strong. You can it caps the damage or the absorption hearts you get per single hit. So if you get hit with a massive amount of damage, like hundreds of hearts, it will only go up to 5 absorption hearts. And you can increase that cap with augments. You can also increase the duration with augments. There's also, I'm actually going to go in here and show, there's a mythical augment here. So mythical is the final rarity level, the highest one. And the catalysts, was not shown over there because you have to do something special to get these catalysts, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But when there's a mythical augment available, it usually is a very powerful thing. Like if we go back to the spawner harness, getting the final level on this is a purple mythical augment, and that grants 0 chance of your harness breaking, so very powerful. And then on the shield, what it does is if you punch something with the shield, it will consume all of your absorption hearts you've built up to deal a lot of damage. So that is a very useful and powerful augment that you can put on it. Next up, we have the Sojourner's Boots. These boots, if I can put them on, will give you a slowly building speed increase when you are sprinting. So you can see on the bottom our boot energy is increasing, and that is the percentage increase. So it goes up to 500, so 500%, 5 times as fast, and you can absolutely speed around with these. These are great. It also will let you passive walk up walls, kind of like auto jump, except slightly improved than Mojang's base auto jump that they add. It can be a bit finicky, like when you're like brushing against the block, or if you're not going fast enough and you're like can't get where you're going. But overall, it is pretty useful. and it lets you go up and down hills very quickly with the speed boost and everything. I just set this weather to clear. And so they're pretty great. You can increase the max speed boost up to 750% through augmentation. You can also make it so your max speed builds faster, so you can like kind of just take off immediately. It also has a final augment that will let you step up 2 blocks worth of height, so you would be able to passively step up that little hill there. And that is also very good. There is a mythical augment also attached called Juggernaut, which is a mythical one, and it will convert your speed boost into extra damage on a punch, and that will slow both you and the target, kind of like you're ramming into them at high speeds. Alright, so now I've talked about these mythical augments. How do you get this mythical catalyst? Because if you look at the recipe for catalysts here, if I'm going to sort through that, you know, the mundane catalyst takes a matrix, and then you get that catalyst, and then the next one you have to take the previous catalyst and upgrade it a bit more, and then take the previous one a bit more, and the previous one a bit more. But if you look at this, it's not a normal crafting recipe. This requires a mini boss fight. And so what you have to do is you have to build a wither with a heart of netherite, and then use a legendary augment catalyst to activate it. And then you have to defeat the boss that spawns. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab all these materials. You can use soul soil or soul sand, just like when you're building a normal wither. And we're going to head over here. We're going to drop all of our stuff off. And then we're going to gear up. This is a difficult fight. You're going to want to have some pretty good magic items with you to make this go quickly and smoothly. I am over-preparing a little bit just so this goes decently fast. Let me make sure that this is set on the right mode, so we're always going to be at regen level. And there is a bit of a visual glitch right now when you use the Runic Quiver combined with the Runic Bow, where if you don't have an arrow in your inventory when you're using it together, it's going to look like you're not shooting an arrow, but then it actually shoots an arrow. So to fix that, just have a normal arrow anywhere in your inventory, and that will fix that. The arrows I've prepared for this fight are some Flak arrows because withers are flying, some Photon arrows because they do a lot of damage, some Siphoning Arrows to keep me high health, and then some Detonation Arrows just in case I need some explosive damage. And so, we're going to go over here and build our wither. So, Heart of Netherite, you can put soul sand, soul soil, whatever you have available, 3 skulls on top, and then activate it. You take your legendary augment catalyst, and you right click. And you're going to get this little thing in the chat, and you're going to want to get ready. This is going to be crazy. So we're going to... The Wither has multiple abilities, so I'm just going to face tank some of its damage and use my shield here to keep me nice and full health. I realized that I did not prepare any good armor for this, which is going to be a problem.
Today we're going to be learning about the literary device of irony.
Because it spawns wither skeletons with netherite axes. Not great. So I'm just going to keep healing myself all the way up. My armor is actually probably going to break, which is going to be rough. And so it's going to use multiple abilities on you to make sure you have an absolutely miserable time. For example, when it has these red particles around it, it is activating its lifesteal ability. And that is going to mean that any damage that its other abilities do to you are going to heal it for a percentage. I am trying my best to keep myself alive with just the Siphoning Arrows. I don't have the health buffer to use any of my big damage dealers, so this is going to be a little hard. It also has an ability that does percentage health damage, so it does not matter what armor you have. It's just going to do half of your health over time. This is a lot of fun. I think I am going to die here. Oh, maybe not. Oh. And so, unlike, you know, a normal Wither... Come here, come down to melee, please. Unlike a normal... Oh! Oh! Unlike a normal Wither, if you try to put it in a suffocation trap, it will just teleport out. It does not care at all. And so, evidently, we died there. I want to set the time and that and all that. So it will teleport out if you try and trap it. And we're going to go back and see what happens. Because if you die, you fail the boss fight. It does not give you a chance to redeem yourself. It will just disassemble and say, you're not worth my time, go away, get good. We're going to kill all of these. Oh, I'm just going to die again, aren't I? We're going to see that all that is left behind is a block of netherite, the heart that it had. You have to, if you fail the fight, you have to remake your legendary catalyst, get your wither skulls back, and do it again. So that's exactly what we're going to do, except I'm going to prepare myself some good armor, so give me just a moment. Alright, so we are ready to try again. I have got myself some protection 4 diamond armor. I've refilled my quiver. We're going to reorganize our potions so we might actually have a chance to use them. Charm is ready, and here we go. I'm going to set this to Flak Arrows. Make sure we get a big buff from that. And it's going to immediately burst us back, and we're just going to start firing Flak Arrows at it. And it did a little teleport because it was not happy about that. Now we're taking significantly less damage from the skulls now. And we're gonna drop a couple health potions. Now it's in melee range, and I'm gonna heal myself up a little bit from one of its blasts. Oh boy. Swap out some of that. It's gonna give me some absorption hearts. My lovely shield. Shield is an absolute lifesaver in this scenario, although if the skeleton bonks you, it's going to disable it temporarily, and the skeleton does not take knockback. The skeletons do not care at all. They're here to make sure that you are not going to get that shield usage. So I'm just going to try and keep my distance from these skeletons here. Oh, I am bonking it. And when it's below half health, it has access to the ability that kind of gave it that shining effect, and that is reflective armor. So any damage that you deal to it, it's going to deal back to you. And if it also has the red particles going at the same time, it's going to heal from that. So this is a very challenging fight. You're going to want to either bring a couple friends to help you out or have some gear ready. And I know I said that I was overgeared, but that's before I realized that I did not have a shield. Also, the fact that it is now nighttime is going to mean that it's going to have friends with it. Alright. Just gonna... Now we're getting it pretty low. It's not having a great time. It's going to try and lifesteal off me, as it's low on HP. which is actually going to work a little bit. Oh, I might want to use the Detonation Arrows on these guys. There we go. Oh boy. I'm gonna heal up. Alright. It's below quarter health now. It's not having a good time. We might actually get it. Oh, I got backstabbed by a Wither Skeleton. It is so low. It is so low. It is ridiculously low. Come on. We can do it. We were so close. There we go. So, as long as you don't die to the Wither Skeletons, you're going to get between 8 and 32 Nether Stars from it, and a Mythical Augment Catalyst, which is going to be probably the first mythical item you get your hands on. I am going to grab my stuff, and I am going to leave. Is that everything? Goodbye. Get me out of here, please. Alright, weather, clear. Let's manually set the duration this time. So hopefully that does not happen again. Right, so, Mythical Augment Catalyst. Hooray! Now you can use that to apply any of those mythical augments that were talked about previously, which is going to be a great help. And also, if you're very lucky when you fight the Null Construct, you are going to maybe get a Null Memento, which you can also craft, so it's not a mythical item, because you cannot actually craft it. And it is an expensive crafting recipe if you decide to go the crafting route rather than the fighting the construct for it route. And so what this does is that when you wear it, and you take concentration damage, it's going to initiate a little ritual that's going to deallocate any of the skill points that you have placed. Because once you place a skill point, it is locked. It is not changing. You cannot deallocate those skill points. So right now I have that one from the set into the electromagnet augment from earlier. But by now, you probably have used a bunch of augments and everything else. But there isn't enough skill points to unlock every augment. So you want to pick and choose which ones you want. So you can have like an early game setup for the augments you want to use in the early game, and then once you're late game and you get yourself a Null Memento, you can use it to deallocate everything, and then reallocate them in a whole new set so you can make new items with new augments and everything. And like I said, the way that you activate this is with taking concentration damage. So I'm just going to hold a couple more of these. And it's going to start the ritual in the chat as you take the concentration damage. So you're going to want to have some healing on you to just eat a couple golden apples as you're doing this. And as it is going, once it ends, you're going to lose the Null Memento off of your head. So now it is gone from our head, and all of our skill points have been deallocated. So if we go over to the electromagnet, we no longer have that level 1 unlocked. So that is the Null Memento and the Null Construct. I'm going to drop some of that stuff off that I don't need, and put my helmet back on. So next up, we have another legendary block, the Continuum Anchor. This is a chunk loader. If you're familiar with a chunk loader, what it does is it keeps chunks loaded. So pretty much if you wander off too far, you know, your animals aren't going to be doing anything, your crops aren't going to grow. You have to be near them for this type of stuff. You need random ticks as well. You know, mob spawners aren't going to work. So what the Continuum Anchor does is that it's going to chunk load a 5x5 chunk radius. So if I turn that on and then go into my free camera here, so it is in this chunk here, just right at the edge. So it's going to load out this chunk and this 5x5 radius, this whole area. So what we can do is we can turn this on to say, oh, this chunk is loaded. Now if we teleport really far away and say something, oh, I didn't turn it on. Okay, so this example of that is unloaded right now because I did not put the fuel in it. So now it stops saying the message. So if we go back, it's going to start saying the message again. And so what you do is you put exotic matter in it, that mundane item that we talked about at the very beginning, and you can right click to put it in, take it out, and say you have enough fuel for 7 days. 7 days of loading. So now we turn this on, we teleport over here, we say this, and it is still loaded. And what makes this different from from vanilla ways of performing choke loading with like nether portals and things, is that hostile mobs will not despawn. Mob spawners, like the one over there, will work as if there's a player there. I'm going to turn that off. And crops will grow, random ticks will happen, so crops will grow and all that good stuff. So it's going to simulate like there is a player nearby, which is very good and a unique feature that you cannot get in the base game. So it does take a bit of time to mine it back since it is a respawn anchor as a block. Once you do, you get it back, you can go move it around, place it somewhere else. It is active while the fuel is in there, but you can deactivate it with a lever if you don't want it to use the fuel when you're nearby or online. So that is the Continuum Anchor. The last normally attainable item we have here is the Spawner Infuser. This is probably the latest game item, the final one that you're gonna make, really, for the first time at least, because it is very expensive to not only make, because it requires echo shards and a bunch of skulk streakers you have to go around and anger the ward and all that, and it takes a spawner harness to make, and that does get consumed. But it also requires a lot of nether stars and a soulstone to power. So here we have a blaze soulstone because we have a blaze spawner over there. So we're going to go over to the spawner and grab a couple of blocks. Oh, that's infested cobblestone, you. Grab a stack of that. We're going to go inside here, and we're going to place this exactly 1 block of empty space below. Just going to place that there, and it's going to make a very unsettling sound as you place it. And then we can right-click this, and we're going to try not to die to these lovely blazes as we are here. So what this needs is it needs a soulstone attuned to the type of spawner that you have here. And so the higher tier soulstone that you use, the more points you can have. So you can see here that it says upgrade points 0 out of 1024. Right here. That is because we're using a max tier soulstone. If you use a lower one, it's going to be a lower number, so you're not going to be able to put as many points into this. Now, what are these points? These points are nether stars. You're going to put these nether stars into the slot, and there's 64 there. So you can see you need a lot of nether stars to do stuff. Any upgrade in here is going to require these points. And once we put the points and we put the soulstone in, we can change the stats of the spawner. I need some torches or something like this up so this stops happening. Let's see. I'm just gonna put these here for now. And so you can decrease the minimum time to spawn or increase the minimum time to spawn. Right now the minimum time is 20 or 200 ticks. They're still spawning. This is egregious. But we can lower that and lower that and lower that and lower that down to a minimum of 20 ticks or 1 second. and that took 256. All the points we put into it. That took all 4 stacks of nether stars that we put into it. And so we can maybe just do a couple of decreases on it, you know. So that's only using 16. We can then decrease the maximum respawn time. And there's other things you can do in here, like the maximum amount of mobs before the spawner gets deactivated, the amount of mobs at the spawner spawn, so we can increase that. The spawn range, so we can make it spawn in a wider radius, a smaller radius. We can decrease the maximum respawn time, so I'm going to put some points to that. Or how far away the player has to, or can be, because spawners will only activate if a player is within 16 blocks of it by default, but you can increase this up a lot. So I'm just going to put the minimum maximum respawn time as low as we can go with the points we have available, which I think that is about it. I'm going to bump up the spawn count as much as I can as well. And to apply these changes, what you're going to want to do is just do that, and then you're going to see all these particle effects, and there's going to be blazes. There's going to be lots of blazes. These are going, if we go outside here and we kill them, they're going to respawn very quickly, because that is what the minimum respawn time and maximum respawn time do. But it's obviously going to spawn too many, because I did not buff the stat that disables the spawner after however many mobs, so that's pretty low. You can right-click that to turn it off. And that is the spawner infuse. You can make some insanely fast mob spawners in combination with the spawner infuser, the spawner harness, the essence egg, the soulstone. All those together make a very, very powerful mob farm. And so that's the last default or attainable item that you can get through crafting. The last 3 are mythicals. These are the rarity that you cannot attain through crafting. So if we go over to here and we look at these and we try to see the crafting recipe, you cannot craft them. The wings here you get from the Ender Dragon boss fight, which can only be run by an admin at the moment. So an admin can start a huge raid boss fight with the Ender Dragon, a very buffed and powerful Ender Dragon with abilities and phases and everything. And what they drop is the Armored Wings of Zephyr. These act as a netherite chestplate. So you can see on the bottom here, my armor acts as if it's a netherite chestplate with protection 4. And as you fly, it will store energy inside the wings. So if we fly around for a little bit, it will at some point say that we have energy stored. And then if we so happen to take fall damage, so if I land on here and then jump off, it's going to use the energy. The armored wings are going to cushion the fall, and it's going to use some of that energy to negate the fall damage. This also works in ramming damage, so if you happen to bash your head into a wall, it's going to use some of that energy to negate up to half of it, based on however much energy that you have. So that is very cool, very fun. So you no longer have to do the trade-off between chestplate, wings, stuff like that. Next up, we have the Pickaxe of Pluto. This is not attainable at all, even with an admin, like running a boss fight or anything, so you have to spawn in via commands. And what it does is it will vein mine ores, and it also has a high fortune level. I believe it's fortune 5. And so it will apply fortune 5 to every ore that it mines, and it will mine all the ores that you click on. And also, as you mine, it will give you haste. So as you're breaking blocks here, if I place down a bunch of these cobblestone here, it's going to increase the haste level. So mining here, we only get haste 1, and then at the end you get haste 2, and it goes up to 10. So if you're strip mining for a while, clearing out a large area, it's going to get real fast, real quick, and that is absolutely fun to play around with. Lastly is the Charm of Leadership, and this is an item that also only attainable through an admin giving it to someone. And what this does is it buffs all the players in this little green radius here with a bunch of effects like strength, regeneration, resistance, all that good stuff. It also repairs armor, even armor that does not have mending. So this stuff does not have mending on it, but it is repairing slowly, repairing armor, repairing tools. This is great in combination with the boss fights that you can run as an admin. And that is, yeah, I had these items here, but you already saw that repaired tools. It's repairing it slowly. And it does not matter about mending or not. And it gives the player that has the item glowing, so everyone else nearby knows who to group up on for heals and all of that. And so that is all the items in Arcana Novum right now. It's version 1.4.2 right now. And so we'll do updated spotlights with the new items every time a new update comes out from now on. And have fun, exploring. I obviously did not show off all the crafting recipes for all of that, or all the augments that you can get. So there's a lot that you can explore and have fun with, find fun combos to do. And so that's it. Thanks so much for watching.